Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 165th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, we have another homebrew review from Hecate. We have a frost twin-headed drake, a creature, a dragon creature specifically. So really curious. I'm actually curious to see if it's a true dragon or if it is a drake. There's a lot of, contention over those names, so we'll kind of see if we call it a real dragon or if it's actually a drake. But yeah, really interested to see what this thing can do. This is the second of a two-part, I guess, or basically the second of a pair. We recently did the Ice Sorcerer from them, and this is the mount that is supposed to go with that one. So, yeah, hopefully we will be able to see and remember some of the connections. Hopefully this will do some callbacks to that Ice Sorcerer. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what a ice dragon will give us, or at least a frost twin-headed drake. Really curious about the two-head part. But yeah, other than that, I think our only update really is we have a community stream coming up and we still have votes available. So if you're part of the Discord, you can go and check that out. Otherwise, keep that in mind as we move forward. You might hear it in the background, and yeah, we're just kind of seeing if the stream will survive. All right, and you just pinged Hecate, which is fantastic.
Indeed,
we'll give Hecate a few minutes here.
Well, shalom, my friends. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm not gonna lie. If it weren't for everybody in my office as well as the community center where I volunteer, reminding me, I would not have even remembered.
I didn't even know. I literally did not know until you walked in and was like, "Oh yeah, I got these to wear green for a minute," and I'm like, "Green?" Literally, just did not know what you were talking about. I'm like, "Oh, that must mean St. Patrick's Day is here."
That's very fair.
So I had no idea.
Not too bad. Not too shabby.
Wasn't the it day for you? Well, that's all right. It hasn't really been much. I mean, I'm lucky to have been off today, but it's basically been raining all day. So
It's been pretty gloomy. I'm not gonna lie.
I've been trying to be productive. I did some editing, so I'm getting another episode prepared. I'll have another episode hopefully done and posted tomorrow on the main channel. So looking forward to that. It's going to be the history of enchantment that we did a while back.
Oh,
so
very nice,
I'm gonna get that video
one.
posted. These are basically just soft edits. There's taking out some of the tangents, taking out some of the pauses, and really just the core of what that episode was supposed to be about.
No, I totally feel that.
And that's kind of what I'm doing to start with the editing process. Because again, as much as I'm bad at editing, I do just need to start doing it. I will get better, slowly but surely.
Sure.
And then at least I'll have a better idea of what I would, if I can't pull certain things off, at least when we do get an editor on board, I will be able to show them, like, I think you mentioned this, where I could be like, hey, you see what I was trying to do here?
Yeah.
Can you do what I was intending?
Gotcha.
Instead of just trying to explain it, at least I'll have representations of, like, you see where I'm headed, right?
Yeah.
Like, now spice that up.
Exactly.
So yeah, so we'll figure that out and see if we can't get someone on board at least. I would really like to get an editor on the books at some point, but again, that's gonna cost money.
Fair. All the things do.
Either that, or we got to find someone who is up and coming, who can't really.
Who would love some
charge.
exposure.
Yeah, who would love some experience and exposure with content, but wouldn't mind just helping us out. So until that happens, or until we make money, I don't know what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna keep doing my best at the small amounts of editing that I'm doing, and hopefully we will just start to grow the channel.
Yeah,
that's my biggest thing right now, is just trying to realize that as good as we're getting, and as much as we are progressing at this, the growth is really going to be expanding into other social media, getting more people to be part of it. Oh, here comes a big old.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be a big old piece of thunder here.
Oh, there it is. Roll. Ooh.
I'm not even sure if that comes through the mics, but that was pretty big. But yeah, so I just know that growing and everything, it's going to be a slow process, but without posting on other social medias, without really getting out there and getting any kind of new audience, I just don't know how much more and how much quicker we can grow here on Twitch. I mean, I keep popping into D&D, the category every now and again throughout the week, and I'm just watching and I'm like, it doesn't really change. It's the same channels, it's the same type of content, except for that one random channel that does the interactive MMO kind of D&D thing that we were talking about, the what was it, like Inuyasha or something. It's like, it was like I was telling you guys about it. It was like they when they're live, they kind of like dominate it, but it's kind of like a chat interactive.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But other than them, like the biggest people don't even, I mean, I think like today earlier, biggest streamer at the peak of the day was like 66 people. So I'm like, it's not like there's thousands of people at any given moment. I mean, I always watch that category and it peaks at like 500 viewers, which I get that we're not going to get all 500, but again, we can only grow so much in that channel until we start to get people who, you know, pulling them from YouTube, who like our channel and who like our content, but want to see the tangents, want to see the in-betweens, want to see what we cut out, or want to submit something, want to interact with us. So deciding what I'm going to put on the main channel, it's probably going to be more of our educational stuff and our creative stuff. So the history ofs and whatnot. I do want to put a couple of the homebrew reviews on there. I had, you know, we started with one. I did the Diamond Dogs was the very first episode I did.
Got you.
But I really want to try to focus on the creative stuff that we either the stuff that we either create or educate on. I think that will draw in more people, but I also want to keep every now and again throwing out a homebrew review, because I think that will also excite a different crowd. When they see that and be like, hey, I'd love to see what they would say about mine. Let me, you know, hop on the live stream. Let's see how I can get part of that. So
for sure.
Yeah, more changes, more updates. We will slowly but surely work our way getting to there.
I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it.
Also looking at doing updates on the stream as well. I looked at some overlays, some widgets, and some other things to spice it up.
Nothing, okay.
None of the templates that I've seen, or the prefabbed ones, were really all that great. So it is making me think, though. Yeah, but it is making me think. I definitely want to look into doing some customized things here and there.
Okay, very nice.
So we'll figure it out. I don't know if Hecate's going to be here. I'll give him 5 more minutes, and if not, we'll move on with the review. Cool. Everyone knows when time we start.
I saw them online, but I'm not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, they're not online.
But yeah. So we'll get there. We'll get some stuff going.
Goodies. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I like what we've got going on. I think like you said, once we get a little bit more into the flow, and if we do finally get somebody that wants to actually do some editing and stuff, like, I think it'll help out a lot with what because we have so much. We've got so much, depending on how quickly the turnaround for some of these other editors are, and like just what they do. You know, like, I don't know what's standard, like, you know, but it's not like they have to just wait until episode comes out. It's just like,
hey. Yeah, and that's the thing, is I don't want to have like a strict thing. I just kind of want to have a catalog, and just basically, in my mind, it's like it's all up for grabs. Just grab an episode, and they all need to be done. You know what I mean? So it's like, just grab from the top and go, and just see how people how it would work. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the first thing about finding it.
Fair, very fair.
I just can't afford it. There's no way I can afford, you know, it's the downside of having done this for 2 years and being so excited to do the things that we've come up with, but it's going to be a lot of time, effort, and a little bit of money to do it for, unfortunately, such a small audience so far. And I love our audience. I love the community, but, you know, it's far too much to like the merch idea, like the merch, the book.
Yeah.
I want to get into this stuff.
Definitely.
But getting someone to do the artwork, getting it produced, getting it high enough quality that I would accept, it's a lot for imagining only 2 people plus ourselves buying it. You know what I mean?
Fair.
It's I'm just like, but then again, you could look at it from the point of view, but when you already have it, you know, as you grow, people would get it. But I don't know if that's really the case, because I've seen so many creators that I thought for the longest time, for years, were famous, who out of nowhere would be like, well, I'm finally gonna do this like merch idea, or I'm finally gonna get a plushie, or and I'm just like, finally? I'm like, dude, you've been doing this for like 8 years. You have like, 2 million followers on YouTube. You average like 200K views, you know, on your videos, and your live streams have several hundred people. I'm like, what do you mean this is the first time you've thought maybe I'll, you know, like, that's the weird part for me. It's like, I'm excited to do it, but no, I don't have a big enough audience. And then there's these other people who are like, I've never tried it before. And I'm like, That's weird to me that you got this big and haven't thought about it.
Hey, maybe they just prioritized other things. Maybe they did think about it and they were just like, yeah, I'm doing this other stuff. Maybe I'm doing this other stuff and I'll get to it when I get to it. And finally, now's the time. But
that's probably what it is.
No, I definitely feel that, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I definitely think like having the ideas and having the setup, like maybe we could like make like a single shot for like ourselves or something like that and wear it on stream or something like that, and then be like, one day you could have one too.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is like anything I make, I'm obviously gonna get like my own, right?
Sure.
Like, I mean, obviously I would own everything I create, and that's why I know it's gonna be more than just like taking our emotes and slapping them onto like like one of those like what's the websites that you just like create stuff and people can buy it, like Shopify and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't just want to take our emotes and slap them on Shopify and call it a day. That's not going to be good enough. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I want it to match the branding. I want it to match our vibe, and I want it to be long lasting. I don't want it to just be a one-off idea.
Yeah.
I really want to make
totally
sure that it like actually comes across as a good idea. So future plans.
Indubitably.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, just under a minute. Still no. Okay, that's fine. All up to them.
Yeah, they're usually around, especially when they know their items coming up. And I feel like, weren't they in our Friday stream?
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they knew they were coming up next. So maybe they're
probably just busy. It
running
happens.
late, something. Who knows?
Maybe they're drinking tonight. Who knows?
Hey, maybe.
That's how St. Patrick's Day went. Yeah. All right. Well, that's the half-hour mark, so I think we are good to start.
Gonna giggity get it.
We don't know what the rain's gonna do, so we might as well get started just in case we lose
can.
power, or
Yep.
at least getting you out of here before it gets too dark, so you can actually make it home before it gets crazy. All right, so let us begin with our new. Oh, Hecate, just in time. As we switch scenes, there's Hecate.
Hey,
just
welcome.
Right at the last second. All right, well, now that Hecate's here, we can truly begin. With today's review, called the Frost Twin-Headed Drake, a dragon-type creature submitted by Hecate. I'm curious again if Drake or dragon is going to prevail. Which type this is going to be.
Yeah.
So let's find out. Starting with the description. The Frost Twin-Headed Drake is a massive, ice-covered dragon with two distinct heads, each exhaling frigid cold and sharp ice shards. Its enormous body is encased in frost, and it moves with the grace of a hunter in its frozen domain. This beast rules the frozen tundras and glacial mountains, using its breath and frost aura to freeze its prey solid before striking with its powerful jaws and tail. A creature of bitter cold, it is as relentless as the harsh winter storms. So immediately what I'm getting out of this, and I'm kind of feeling like I'm already going to be not disappointed, but I already think I'm not going to get what I want, because it says that it has the two heads, but each exhaling frigid, cold, and sharp ice shards. I'm hoping that doesn't mean they both have the same breath weapon. Like, I'm kind of...
interesting.
Because there's a couple different ways you could do this with two different heads. Either it could have the same breath weapon, it can just fire twice in a round, which would be massive. It can only fire one breath weapon around like normal, but it gets like double the cone size because two heads could, overlap cones.
Okay.
So instead of it being like a cone like this...
So when they do it,
like,
they have to do it at the same time.
Yeah, but it would like spread out like basically any one from their left and right and forward. Or you get two different ones. And the first thing that comes to my mind is I want one that would like freeze the ground and make it like difficult terrain, and then one that either does damage or like slows a target. So it's almost like, it's both play into each other, where one traps you and then the other
reminds me of How to Train Your Dragon, like that two-headed one put out the gas and the other one lit it, and it kind of turned on fire and stuff like that.
So immediately when I read this, that's what I'm hoping for. I was hoping that when I see this, it's like, I want two different abilities that would just beautifully play back. I absolutely want one of them to just do like a cold breath, like a straight up cold breath weapon, like an ice fog. Because like, you know, you could have like a nice one where it like covers an area, makes it difficult to see, but also you take damage while you're in it.
Take cold damage?
Because it's like you're breathing in like frigid cold air.
Yeah.
And then like another one either being a terrain alteration where it makes it difficult to walk, or that one just be straight damage. Like I kind of, you know what I mean? Like I kind of want one that does AoE and then one that's more direct, which is the first idea that I get. But I'm also really, really curious about this this frost aura. It says using its breath and frost aura. So I'm also really curious what we're gonna get in terms of, is it just if you're within 5 feet you take cold damage? You know what I mean? Like, do you have to be right up on it, or does it like just leave a trail of ice behind it? Can it freeze water or liquids? So yeah, so I'm really curious.
Very cool, very cool. I'm excited to see what we got too.
Soul says you're talking about the hideous Zippleback.
The what?
I have no idea. Whatever you were talking about.
What was I talking about?
I have no idea. Soul just says you're talking about the hideous Zippleback, and I don't know what the Zippleback is.
I don't. That's wild. Absolutely wild.
All right. So looking at this thing, we definitely have a two-headed. So it does, interesting. So it has barely any wings, but it does have what appears to be 4 legs, possibly 2 tails, but I think that might be just AI gibberish.
Okay.
But we do have 2 back legs, 2 front legs, and a separate set of wings. So that's technically a dragon.
Okay.
Technically,
theoretically,
by definition, 4 legs and separate wings define a dragon. So again, because I think a drake is the drake.
I think the drake was the 2 legs instead of 4 legs.
Well, because the wyvern's the 2 legs, 2 wings. Is the drake the wingless one? I forget.
No.
The 2-headed dragon from How to Train Your Dragon is the hideous Zippleback.
Oh, that's what that was. Got you. The hideous. That's really what its name was? Wild.
Let's see. So, yes. So technically, drakes are the wingless. So this would technically be, if you consider. Okay, so I would say this. It looks like a dragon.
Sure.
If it cannot fly, it's a drake. If it can fly, it's a dragon. That would be my ruling, because it has what you could consider superfluous wings. You know, like a penguin has wings.
They're for decoration.
So if we look at these, I don't know if those would allow it to fly. Those might just be an evolutionary add-on. So I will say I would leave my calling for whether or not we figure out if it can fly. Because if it can fly, it should be called a dragon. If it cannot fly, I would be okay with the drake because it's a misnomer.
Got you. Okay, fair enough.
All right, so twin-headed twin-headed drake. I think you mentioned something beforehand where this verbiage isn't.
It makes me feel like twin-headed should be first. It sounds
twin-headed frost drake.
Twin-headed frost drake versus frost twin-headed drake.
It also, I forget what the etymology, the terminology is, but there's a terminology in language where certain things phonetically go in a certain order to flow. And twin-headed frost drake follows that. Twin-headed frost drake. But frost is almost, I forget what the terminology is, but it's like, it's too harsh. It's like frost. You have to say it and stop, and then reset to say twin-headed. Because twin-headed drake is fine. Frost drake is fine. But frost twin-headed drake, that's the problem. It's the double T. It's because you do frost twin-headed drake. You have to pause because you can't just go
actually get
frost twin. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say it as one word. That's why it's hard to say, because you feel like you have to enunciate the different T's. Whereas if you just did the twin-headed frost, it's all just a flow. But we'll see. It is a huge dragon.
Wild.
That is chaotic neutral. I was not expecting this.
So this is not even
so it
large.
Can't be a drake.
This is huge.
It can't be a drake then. There's no way that you, I mean, even like a drake should be a medium, if not large creature. Even a wyvern starts at like large or huge. Like that's, so it definitely probably is more like a dragon then. Again, curious why we're calling it a drake. So it's huge. Huge is what? 3x3? No. Yeah, 3x3.
Yes.
Okay, we got a 3x3. And it's a chaotic neutral. So we have an armor class of 19 with natural armor, hit points of 189 or 18d12 plus 72. Again, it's always so hard to tell what things should have, like life-wise.
Yeah, I'll say 18 implies that this creature is around level 18 because you get like a hit die for every level that you are.
Okay.
And then if that 72 equals their con modifier times that 18, then that seems about right.
Okay. And we're looking at, I mean, because there is no CR given to this, which I kind of appreciate. Like, not
there might be. They usually list it after some of the stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I don't know if
I've seen it in different places so far.
Yeah,
so.
that's fair.
Okay, so it does have a speed of 40, which, I mean, for that size, you would expect it to go faster.
Sure.
But it does have a speed of flying of 80. So it does fly. So this is a dragon, not a drake, 100%. This cannot be a drake. I'm curious why we have the misnomer in the name. And not necessarily saying, like, I don't want to be like, rules lawyery saying, like, dragons have a terminology. But again, there is an etymology to dragon kind. And so calling it a drake, I wonder if there's a lore reason for that.
Or if it's just the name that they felt sounded best. And that might be the case because I know a lot of people, like even Mushu, people call him a dragon, right? But he's got no wings. So
he's a worm. So
yeah. So it's like if you want to get specific or if you just want to get the vibe.
Technically, Mushu is a drake because he has feet. He's not a worm. He has feet, so he's a drake. Okay. Mushu is technically a drake.
Okay.
So yeah, so I don't know. Like, I don't know if it matters. It won't matter to the review. I'm not gonna make any dings. I don't care about etymology, or I don't care about terminology in terms of what people want to make.
That's what you want to call it.
But there is an argument to be made about, again, universal acceptance. If people hear Drake, but then it has all the aspects of a dragon,
right?
Some people could take issue with that.
At the very least, it paints a certain picture in my mind, and then when I make the connection. For me, it's one of those things, like I always talk a lot about like player immersion, DM immersion. Like it's one of those things that like slightly, not extremely, but slightly breaks my immersion if I'm going to hear the description of this thing after you just called it a drake. Or if I hear the description of it and then you call it a drake.
Right. And you're like, wait, is it a dragon or is it a drake? Like, and that might be, again, it's not so much I'm going to take away from it. It's just like there are rules lawyers out there who will make us think about it.
Yeah.
So I would just say that, consider that. Hecate says that for the name purposes, never looked at the differences of the names, just went with what sounded good. Gotcha. Okay.
That's kind of what I figured.
Argument about no wings equals no fly. Look at the design. There was no argument about no wings, no fly. It's just that we were literally...
You made the comment that like maybe this thing has wings but can't fly.
But again, that's more of the difference between like what we were trying to talk about, like the etymology of what it should look like versus what we should call it. But I mean, there was no comment made that you have to have wings to fly. Like, don't get that twisted. There was never a comment that wings are required for flight. It's just that if you have a four-legged creature that has wings and it can't fly, I would be more comfortable calling it a drake.
But if it has just talking about on Friday when we created that image to item, the eels that were flying.
Yes,
they didn't have any wings or anything like that. They were just through the air.
So it's just more of talking about like the actual etymology of how do you classify a dragon. If a dragon, has wings but can't fly and is more like dog-like, I could see why someone would call it a drake. But coming from what Hecate said, it just seems that just sounded pretty good. So again, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think that most people would have an issue with it. I just do think that there are rules lawyers out there who would see that and be like, that's not what I thought, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't have called it that. So, I mean, take that for what you want. Take it with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying?
If that's the case, if I come across this item and I'm that rules lawyery, I'm just going to call it a dragon.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like it's not that big of a deal. All right, so getting into its stats, we have a strength of 22, which I don't mind. A dex of 14. I actually would have considered that a little bit higher. Constitution of 18. Intelligence of 8. That's interesting. A wisdom of 12 and a charisma of 14. These are actually pretty high numbers, even for a creature.
Maybe the intelligence is so low because it is subservient. Because it somehow got, I don't want to say domesticated or whatever. You know, like how most dragons have some sort of like intelligence. This one's might be more bestial, rather than like smart. You know,
I'm curious why such a high charisma. Like, if you're gonna have low intelligence, high charisma, Yeah, I'm just really curious because like I can understand the wisdom aspect because it's not a it's not a magic caster, so you
Sure.
wouldn't think so. It doesn't need the intelligence, doesn't need language, so it doesn't need high intelligence. I can understand the high wisdom. I just don't necessarily understand the high charisma. That's a little bit weird for me.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I get the Constitution being 18. I mean, I guess because it's so huge, the Dexterity being 14 does make sense.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can get behind that. But again, honestly, with a movement speed of 80 flying, like I'd still expect it to be like at least maybe like a 15 or 16.
Yeah. So yeah, I would probably drop down even intelligence a little bit more and charisma more, and you probably could have gotten away with a 15 or 16 dex.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the intelligence is low because being born with two heads, so the anomaly caused it to grow bigger than most dragons, but it was dumb because of it.
Oh, so it's like it's split its intelligence between either mind,
like splitting resources basically. Instead of having enough resources to handle
kind
two
of like
brains.
our the psionicist. If
Yeah.
you split your whatever it is.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay. So I definitely don't mind the low intelligence for a dragon. It's just the constitution is the weird part. I think that we could just get away with dropping the constitution and even dropping the intelligence even more so. Because again, it doesn't need language. It doesn't need to be.
I'll say I'm kind of okay with the constitution just because of the environment that they're in. And
Sorry,
they're
not constitution, charisma.
Oh, charisma. Yeah.
Just dropping charisma. Charisma is the only thing that doesn't make sense to me, is being so high. So I could justify drop charisma to even 10, even drop intelligence to like a 6, and then I could even see dexterity going up to like a 15 or 16 and being okay with the front balance of that.
Sure.
But otherwise, I don't mind this
that.
at all. It doesn't seem out of balance at all. It just seems like I could justify a different way.
Sure. Fair enough.
Saving throws. We have a dexterity of +6, constitution of +8, a wisdom of +5, and a charisma of +6.
4 saving throws.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And again, I don't really understand the why the charisma. Maybe because if it has like, I mean, I'm trying to think of what is a charisma saving throw.
Charmed.
So I'm like, is it because it has 2 heads and it's dumb? So therefore it's harder to charm because it's, you know what I mean? Like that could kind of make sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's interesting. So skills, it has perception of +9, a stealth of +6, and survival of +6. Those all make sense.
Sure.
Damage resistances. It is resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks.
Fair enough.
I'm not upset about that, especially with the leveling area that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It is immune to cold damage. So
Makes sense.
yeah, I'm glad that there's only one there. Like this is a perfect example of how to balance resistance and immunity, right?
Yeah.
Is having a standard resistance like that and an immunity like that doesn't make it overly complicated. I don't feel like I have to justify it. It just kind of speaks for itself. Adding, more of these things, like if it were resistance to charm and then immune to, water based, like then you have to start asking like, where are all these connections coming from? But this is perfect. I like that. Condition immunities, frightened and charmed. So again, I guess that's where it's charisma. But again, if it's already going to be immune, then why bother boosting the charisma to have a save? So I might consider that. Drop the charisma, drop the charisma amount, drop the charisma saving throw, and then just give them the immunity to these two. And it doesn't really need the saving throw of charisma at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be maybe a little bit better balance. What's going on, Cart? So maybe just another way to take it.
I'll say again, just going back to the saving throws, it's very, very, very rare to see anything with more than 2. Now, because this thing is so big, maybe give it 3, but 4 is, it feels like a lot to me.
That's why I'm thinking like we can just cut the charisma again, because if you're going to give it, I mean, what else would you use a charisma bonus or a charisma saving throw for outside of charmed and frightened?
I mean, there might be some other spells, but I think
it just sounds like maybe overkill. Maybe like just do one or the other. So,
I would say like probably give it Constitution and Wisdom, and then I can see the dex kind of making up for the low dex.
I don't know. Maybe that's the case to be made, though. Maybe it should only be Constitution and Wisdom. Drop Charisma because you already have the immunities, and then drop Dexterity because it's so big. Yes, it has Dexterity, but a Dexterity saving throw for something that big is actually kind of a feels bad.
I would honestly, I'd give it the Dexterity if the wings were bigger. Like, because maybe you can like use it to help protect you or something like that. But like, yeah.
Okay, so definitely maybe pull back on that a little bit.
But okay.
So sense-wise, it has dark vision of 120 feet and passive perception of 19. That
Cool.
sounds pretty good. It has draconic language and nothing else, and it is a challenge rating of 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so nothing else big there.
Mine's kind of.
Is that high?
I mean, not. I mean, when it comes to the scale of challenge ratings, it's up there. It's not like a level 1 party, 4 party. It's not gonna like you need to be a decent level to go up against a challenge rating 9. Not like it's high for this creature.
Right. Gotcha.
I'm just trying to look to see what's kind of standard on some.
Yeah, you do that. I gotta go use the restroom, so you take a look at what might be on the same level as this thing.
Sure. So let's take a gander. Let me find. Oh my goodness, so many things. You know what? Let's specifically look at dragons. Why not? Nine. Dragon soul. I don't even know what that is. Venom Fang is a large dragon. All right. A young blue dragon is also challenge rating 9. Okay. We looking at roughly similar stats. Nothing too crazy. Most of the challenge rating 9 stuff is just young dragons of some sort or another.
Okay, so this is on par with a younger dragon.
To be honest, yeah. 40 feet movement speed, 80 feet flying speed, hit points roughly the same in the 160, 100 and like 100 and half-ish range. Like it might be a little bit on the high end, but like that's chill.
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Although, wild. Hold on, let me look at some of these other ones. Goodness, maybe I'm wrong. Every single one of these I've looked at so far also have all of the exact same saving throws. Dex, Con, Wisdom, and Charisma. So wild. So I don't know if that's just like a dragon thing or what. Let me look at Silver. Dex, Con, Wisdom, and Charisma. Shoot.
All right. So maybe
that's
it's
interesting.
So
That's very
probably it
interesting.
is on par with what we should have.
Yeah, it really is. Like all of these have those four saving throws. Maybe I just haven't messed with dragons nearly enough. But
yeah, I haven't looked at 5th edition like later stage, so yeah. No idea. Okay, so it seems fairly balanced then. Again, maybe our critique is more on wizards than it is on Hecate's build then.
Fair enough.
All right, so abilities. Twin-headed assault. The Frost Twin-headed Drake has 2 heads, each capable of independent action. The Drake can make saving throws against being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, stunned, or knocked unconscious at the start of each of its turns. If one head is affected by a condition, the other head is not. Again, this feels like, I don't know if this is just because it's just how 5th edition does things, but why are we saying that we can make a saving throw against charmed and frightened when I'm immune to it?
That is interesting. I was going to ask the same thing. Like, if you're immune to it, like, you don't need to mess with it.
So I don't know if this is just like a copy paste of like another verbiage from that, but I mean, definitely I would say there's no reason to have those in there. So we could just, just to shorten it up. So basically this is saying that.
What are the other conditions? Blinded, stunned.
So basically this is saying
deafened.
that okay, this is a little bit interesting. I would have maybe made these like 2 separate abilities, like they can act independent. Like it's interesting that this is twin-headed assault, they can act independent, but then it says it can basically just auto save out of any of these conditions by default. So regardless of what the condition says, and regardless if the condition says you can save out, he can save out regardless at the start of his turn. So
interesting. So every condition is save ends regardless of if it was supposed to be or not.
Correct. So if you blind him for whatever reason, and however you blinded the creature, if it does not save out, they will try to save at the start of their turn. No matter what, they just get that option. So yeah, I would take out the charm and frightened just because we already know that. But blinded, deafened, and stunned, and unconscious. Blind, deafened, stunned, and unconscious, they can save out at the start of their turn. And you can only affect one head at a time.
Now, So the one head at a time thing, the way I read that is just because one head is affected doesn't mean the other one is, but like if there's an AoE thing that blinds
regardless
them,
of I'm just saying like each one is
independent. Okay,
you just if one's stunned, the other is still up and active, and then
unless they both get stunned.
Yeah, but then apparently again at the start of its turns, it's just
see that's crazy because
at the start of each of its turns, it gets a chance to save out of any of those conditions.
See, I feel like stunned specifically should affect the body. Blind and deafened, sure, each head. But stunned and unconscious should affect the body, and it should.
I mean, I just look at stunned as being like hit up against the head and you got your bell rung, and it takes you a second to refocus. That's what I look at. Stunned isn't a you're paralyzed. It's a literally your brain is just.
I'm thinking about the monk ability, stunning strike.
Same thing. Like imagine just imagine you just knock someone inside of the temple. It's not that they're frozen. It's not like they got hit by a taser. They're stumbling around, but guess what? They're not thinking. Stunned means you can't think straight. That's how I've always looked at it. Stunned to me is just getting your bell rung and, or similar to having like the wind knocked out of you. If you ever had that happen where your lungs collapse and it takes you a few seconds to actually like breathe again. That's how I've always looked at stunned because they have incapacitated, right? Incapacitated is more like getting hit with a taser.
I will say at the beginning of stunned, it says you are incapacitated.
Okay, so yeah, but incapacitated
it says
meaning
you can't move, you can't speak. It says you can speak only flatteringly. I don't know exactly what that was supposed to mean. But I'm assuming you can only speak in like broken sentences or
exactly
something like that.
Because when I think of stunned, I just think of someone just hit you so hard that didn't knock you out, but it's going to take you a second.
Yeah,
to recover
okay, I can get behind that with this description.
So just to kind of understand like why you can stun one side and not the other.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? So I get that, but.
And so then I would say I could see it for both stunned and unconscious.
Yeah, I mean unconscious. A save out of unconscious is interesting.
That the save part out of it is very interesting.
I can understand being saved out of blinded. I can understand being saved out of deafened.
Okay,
I can kind of understand shaking that off.
I'll say the only thing I can say for that is you have another head to kind of like jolt you awake, or you have another consciousness. I would say, and this is just how I would personally do it, if both of them are unconscious at the same time, then you don't get the save out.
So we can just say like the Drake can make a saving throw against I would say just like it can, because we don't need the charmed and frightened, remember we're already immune to that. So I would just say it can make a saving throw against being blinded and deafened. I would say the same thing, but yeah, I would add the terminology that like for stunned and unconscious specifically, one head must be awake. So like if
one head must be unaffected.
So like if they're both blinded, they can both save out. If they're both deafened, they can both save out.
Sure.
But if they're both unconscious, there's no save. Because like you said, I like the idea that it's one head waking the other one up or jostling the other out of the stunned condition.
Yeah.
I like that instead of just they're both unconscious and no, they're not. That's a little bit harder for me. So it might add some verbiage here. Yeah. But I don't mind saying that. I don't mind the blinded and deafened. That one, totally okay.
Agreed.
But I do think stunned or unconscious should be, if only one is affected, it can save out. Because I do feel like that's a little bit overkill to knock this thing out. And then it's like, nah, I'm good.
It's like, no, you can't knock me out. At least not for long.
All right. But otherwise, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this.
Okay.
The duality of the head and everything. It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong to be able to just save out whenever you want. Like that's pretty strong. But again, these are very specific conditions. So
sure.
How often are these conditions going to be the ones that you're specifically going to be trying to do on this track?
I'll put it this way. You've got so much health. I highly doubt someone's going to be casting a sleep spell on you, especially because unless 2024 has fixed it, it's really only effective on low or level creatures because you can't upcast it and increase the number of hit dice.
And unless you have some sort of like homemade or homebrewed feature that allows you to like unconscious strike someone,
right?
Like do an unconscious type of strike, which actually would be kind of a cool feat of like instead of like stunning strike or smite, have like an attack that has a percentage chance. Like if you hit, you roll a percentage chance to actually knock the creature unconscious. Like they have to make a save versus Constitution or be knocked unconscious. Because that would be a cool feat, just like once per day. Or just like have a certain weapon that can do it, like what, because we talked about this, right? 2024 gave like certain weapons those abilities. Why not a hammer? Why can't like a hammer or a club have a knockout?
I really
ability?
hope we get an image to item and then we can make one.
Right?
Heck
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So next ability is the Frost Aura. I did say that I wanted to see this. So a creature that starts its turn within 10 feet of the Drake must make a DC 17 con save, taking 10 or 3d6 cold damage on a failed or half as much on a success. So 10-foot aura.
That's chunky.
Damage.
That's chunky.
I mean, 3d6 isn't terrible. Like you said, you're not going to be running into this early on, so you're going to be mid-level or higher.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of damage, so you're going to be doing range.
10, which is not terrible.
But at the same time, this thing's going to be flying more often than not. So realistically, it's only going to affect those that require melee.
Mm-hmm.
And again, fighting a dragon melee sucks. So I don't know why you're trying to anyway. So, okay, I'm down with that. How do you feel about that con save? Or that DC save? 17 con.
Again,
for the level,
it's a challenge rating 9. I don't think it's bad. I think
it's on par. I think it's on par with the
I was
difficulty
gonna say, I think it might be able to be like an 18, but I think 17's a good option.
Yeah.
I really do.
I like it. I think it's really good. I mean, hell, I would even go one step further and say, if a creature takes damage 3 times, like they're like frozen or incapacitated, you know what I mean? Like you could even just say, like, if you're caught in the aura too long, you start to freeze.
And I think it was actually Hecate that created the permafrost condition, dude.
Right?
I think that should totally be a thing here.
Yeah. So yeah, the permafrost condition after so long in the aura could be kind of a cool thing too. Interesting. Okay, and then we have a legendary resistance 3 times per day. If the Drake fails a saving throw, it can choose to succeed instead. So basically, that just, it's the abilities. It's. I think this is 100% designed to come out of blinded, deafened. Sure. It's basically guaranteed to do that. That's pretty simple. That's pretty straightforward. I don't mind it. The legendary resistance, like that's kind of standard for something this big. Sure. I wouldn't have minded it being something else, however, like a legendary action, because I don't see those very often. But I do think the legendary resistance makes perfect sense for this one.
Okay. Yeah. I will say a lot of the times where you see one, you usually see the other. So
yeah. 2014, you can upcast sleep. If you roll 5d8 for the hit point affected area when upcast, it adds an additional 2d8 to that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
All right, so let's look at its actions. It has multi-attack. The Frost Twin-Headed Drake makes 3 attacks, 2 with its bite, 1 from each head, and 1 with its tail. So no claw attacks or anything like that.
Okay.
Bite. Melee weapon, 10 plus to hit, reach of 10, like the reach. 2d10 plus 6 piercing damage, plus 2d8 cold damage.
Cool. I like it. I like it a lot.
And the tail, melee weapon attack, plus 10 to hit, a reach of 15. Like that.
Very nice.
2d8 plus 6 bludgeoning, and the target must succeed a DC 17 or be knocked prone.
I like that they do that and they don't give the tail cold damage.
Yeah, I was like worried that was what it was gonna read, but no, it's just straight just be knocked prone. I don't like that. And then we have Frost Breath, recharge on a 5 or a 6. The Frost Twin-Headed Drake exhales freezing wind and ice shards from both heads in a 60-foot cone. Each creature that in the area must make a DC 17 dexterity saving throw or take 12d8 cold damage on a failed or half as much on a success.
I like that it's what you said earlier, and it's that both heads go at the same time.
Yes, instead of it being 2 different
just a bigger
options.
Cone.
Yeah, 60-foot cone's amazing.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. Love it. But wild.
I mean, hell, I would even just say, like, not only does it go further out, but you actually start with 2 squares. So you know how normally it goes from 1 square and then it goes out?
Oh, right.
I'd almost be okay with it starting on 2 or even all 3 squares. Like, basically, like, if you're a 3x3, right?
Sure.
Technically, each cone is on each side of the 3.
Honestly,
so I would be okay with it.
I would love it if you would just make it a regular cone and let the DM orient them as it chooses.
Or like do 2 different
like
directions.
Imagine if they wanted to do
so it's
like
1 attack, but it can go in any of the 4 directions at once.
You can like
any
I can
2
go
of
this
the
way.
4.
Or I can, yes. But maybe not behind you. Maybe not directly behind you. But like,
well, I mean, it's a dragon.
Like you can go this way. So
but the dragon is pretty fucking big. So maybe you can go.
It can rotate its body to like go 2 sideways ones. You know. But not, like if you're facing this way, like I have a hard time. It's gonna like 360 its neck.
It can either when it does this, it can fire a 60-foot cone or 30 two 30-foot cones, one left, forward, and left, forward, and right, just not behind, like almost like basically in a 180. So you can, so you can either do a 60-foot cone or two 30-foot cones in a 180.
Yes.
Basically fully left or fully right, but you can orient too.
Yes.
I love that, and I think that's what it should be. Because we are saying that they both attack, I would love this idea of I can just go forward and blast a huge one. But if I'm being flanked, I love the idea that I could blast over here and blast over there with a normal 30-foot cone and still get my effect off.
I think that would be sick.
Yes.
I think that would be sick.
So Hagate, that I 100% agree with Kage on that one. I think being able to direct it would be awesome. Yeah, two 30-foot cones is kind of cool. And again, if you choose the same direction, it becomes a 60-foot cone.
For sure.
I'm 100% okay doubling the distance or getting two different directions. Except again, just somehow verbiage, you can't go directly behind you.
Yeah.
180 degree with the direction you're facing.
And because it can
left,
matter only
right.
to a certain extent if you like stop it from being able to move or something like that. If you're like keeping it in a certain direction, like it's not able to go like directly. Or imagine something got on its back. You can't cone something that's on your back.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
I like that. All right, cool. I am totally okay with that. So moving on to reactions, we have Cold Retaliation. When the Frost Twin-Headed Drake takes damage from a creature within 15 feet of it, it can use its reaction to unleash a burst of icy wind. So it basically farts on it.
Nice.
The attacker must make a DC 17 Constitution saving throw or take 4d6 cold damage on a fail or half as much on a success. So this is interesting. So this is 15 feet, but it only has a 10-foot frost aura. So this isn't within its aura. It's not
just beyond its aura.
Yes, but when they come in within 15 feet of it, it can use a reaction. Now, see, this doesn't say there's any limitation. So the moment any creature, because it doesn't even say the first time, it just says whenever a creature enters a 15-foot radius,
it is once per turn.
But I mean, still, like, you know what I mean? Like that's, I don't know. Does that count if it moves too? You know what I mean? Like if it does a flyby, do you have to enter it or can I enter your space and still do it? Like, you know what I'm saying?
It has to be in response to being attacked.
Okay.
So if it has to be,
it says takes damage from a creature within 50 feet. For some reason, my mind said when it enters 15 feet.
Okay.
So only when it takes damage and within 15 feet, it does an unburst of icy wind. I mean, really, if it's not its breath weapon, it has to be farting. That's the only thing I can imagine that this thing is doing. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, where else is this coming from?
Icy wind.
Where is the icy wind coming from if it's not its breath weapon? Did it sneeze on it?
I mean, you're breaking wind on these fuckers, man.
Okay, so 4d6. How do you feel about that? 4d6 as a reaction to an attack.
It's hefty. Again, this creature's reach is 10 feet. So, which means
and tail is 15.
So
I'm just thinking that this is probably best used when it's flying because it'll do a flyby, and if someone tags it right as it's flying by, it might be able to if you
hold your action to
I'm just thinking that because otherwise, like within 15 feet, no standard build will have a 15-foot reach, maybe 10. So what's attacking you outside of an archer or a mage?
I will say
that would be attacking you at 15 feet.
The only standard build that I can think of, because people love to do this, is bugbears with polearms.
Yeah. Okay. So
bugbears, it's the one build that can sit there and attack you from.
Minus that though.
Sure.
Think about what a 15-foot attack means. It just says if you take damage from someone who's within 15 feet of you. So it's probably more or less used for the melee people.
Sure.
But the fact that it goes up to 15, it's like who's likely to be hitting you when you're not flying at 15 feet specifically. It's, you know what I mean? It's like it's that weird range where it's almost too close to consider your archer unless you're off the ground. Or they're, on high ground, right? That's not a lot of distance that an archer would typically have is 15 feet.
Yeah, and like any archer, like why are you firing at 15 feet?
Exactly. And then again, and as a mage, does this count for mage too? Does it count for spells? It just says when it takes damage.
For sure.
That's the other thing is I think this has to deal with mages and melee. So it's weird that it's at 15 feet, but I kind of get it. It's kind of like, it's almost like what I would say is that, I would almost actually want this to be titled Frost Aura Retaliation. And what I want it to kind of do is that when you take damage, your aura like pulses and expands to 15 feet to attack, like like something like that almost.
You said it had to be a fart. What if it's like flapping its wings and like the frigid air that's like right there,
it like towards them,
throws like some extra cold air their way or something like that.
Just a wing flap.
And
like basically, as a reaction, it flaps at a wing.
But I really like that idea that it is the extension of your cold aura, especially because it's so close to it. It's right outside of it.
That would be easier to explain than where it's coming from.
Sure.
Like again, where is this attack coming from? If it's just it flaps its wings and extends its aura to you, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I mean, 3d6 on a reaction's a lot, but again, you're fighting a dragon. How often again, unless you're melee, see the thing too, if you're melee range, this thing already gets 3 attacks on you, then you hit it and then it attacks again. You know what I'm saying? Like hitting this thing at melee is gonna suck. This thing is not this thing is designed to attack melee creatures.
So
like everything about it is saying, fuck you, get close to me. Because it's breath weapon, it's aura, it's attacks, everything. I mean, it even knocks you prone if you get too close. Like everything about it is just trying to fucking murder you if you were too close. But it really does, outside of 60 feet, it has nothing to do if you're far away.
You know what's funny? You know what will do something if you're that far away? The ice sorcerer on its back.
Oh, and then we still have to figure that out. We still have to figure out how that ties in, because this thing is supposed to have a rider that can really fuck up your day.
That's honestly what I'm thinking, is like it's supposed to handle anyone who gets too close to the sorcerer, and then the sorcerer is supposed to fuck you up.
And the sorcerer can handle anybody at distance, because it can handle like, yeah, this thing sucks. I mean, like as a battle, this thing would suck to go against.
Yeah.
Okay. So we might have to pull that other one up and see how they like intertwine, because I'm still trying to figure out how these intertwine.
Yeah.
All right, so legendary actions, here we go. So legendary actions, the Frost Twin-Headed Drake can take 2 legendary actions. Choose from the options below. Only 1 legendary action can be used at a time. Only 1 at the end of another creature's turn. Oh, and at the end of the creature's turn, the Drake regains spent legendary actions at the start of its turn.
Okay.
It has a bite attack, which makes a bite attack with one of its heads.
Okay.
It has a tail swipe, so to make a tail attack.
Okay.
And Frozen Ground costs 2 actions. The Frost Twin-Headed Drake causes the ground in a 20-foot radius around it to become coated in slick ice. Each creature within that area must succeed a DC 17 dexterity saving throw or fall prone. The area becomes difficult terrain for 1 minute. That's kind of what I was expecting from the other breath weapon if we had 2.
So, and every turn, it can create a new area that lasts for a minute.
Yeah. And make people fall prone.
But it will be the only...
every other turn. Well, you know, at the start of every turn, it gets both of its...
Yeah, so if it uses both of its legendary actions every turn to do that, the only reason it wouldn't is if it doesn't move. If it like casts one in the middle of the area and it's fighting off all these people in the middle of that area and it stays there, that's great.
But at the same time, only at the end of another creature's turn too. So it's not every round it could do something at the end of someone else's turn.
So here's what I'm thinking, because this is wild. I think to balance this out just a tad, I feel like it would be cool if flying worked the way that it did in Baldur's Gate 3. Okay. Meaning, specifically for this creature, meaning that it can fly 80 feet, but it has to end its turn on the ground, or it has to end its turn landed on something.
Interesting. So it's more like a jump than it is
a fly. It's like jumping. It can fly for a little bit, but then it's got to like land at a spot. And again, I feel like that, and again, maybe this is just me associating it with these tiny wings in the picture. I feel like that feels a little bit better with those wings, but yeah, I think that would make this battle make a lot more sense, because like you said, most of what it's doing, it won't even be able to do if it's flying, right? Like all of those reactions, if it's flying, if it's in the air, it can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
It's not going to be able to create that ground. I mean...
So here's also something interesting. So I did pull up the Icebound Sorcerer to kind of get like a thing. So interesting enough, So here's the funny part. And I think this might have just been a slight oversight on Hecate's part. But the creature is immune to cold damage, which perfectly makes sense.
Sure.
Because the sorcerer also has the frigid aura. the same frigid aura the dragon does. They both have a 15-foot aura of any creature that starts their turn takes damage.
Do they really?
But here's also the funny part, and this is where I think the oversight is. The dragon has cold immunity. The sorcerer only has cold resistance. So if you think about it, technically by those terminologies, the sorcerer can't ride the dragon. Otherwise, they will take cold damage over time because they're only resistant, not immune. So I think there might be an oversight there that Hecate needs to fix up. Otherwise, by technicality, the ice sorcerer wouldn't last because they would have to take damage.
Interesting. So wait, the ice sorcerer has a cold aura.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Heart of Ice. The icebound sorcerer is immune to the frightened condition and cannot be affected by extreme cold. Additionally, its cold spells ignore resistance to cold damage, and creatures immune to cold damage instead take half damage from its cold spells. So again,
maybe that Heart of Ice is articulating that the cold aura is considered extreme cold, and that specific effect it's not.
But it also is saying that but it's also saying that it can overcome immunity. So technically, if its ice aura is ice magic and it takes creatures' immunities away, its dragon is now taking damage. One of them is going to be taking damage from each other.
So frigid aura, yeah, it does.
I'm just saying that I think there's a small oversight in if these are supposed to be a pair. You need
it's spells. It's frigid aura doesn't count as a spell.
Yeah, I'm just saying like you need to have more like if these are meant to be a pair, they should also reference each other. Because the other thing that we're not seeing here is if these are meant to be together, like it's one thing to just say, I like this creature and I like this character or this like other creature. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to mash them together. That's fine. But when you say they're a pair and neither of them can work off of each other, you know what I'm saying? Like, why doesn't this have an ability that says when the icebound sorcerer does XYZ and then vice versa?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything major, but it just could be like on the icebound sorcerer, it can call the icebound drake or the twin-headed drake within a mile, as long as they're within a mile, like some sort of way to tell me that these go together. Because realistically, looking at these, like the icebound sorcerer and the drake, there's some weird verbiage that says they could damage each other, and I'm pretty sure that's not the intended case. So we could tighten up the language on both sides that say they can't affect each other. But yeah, they both have frigid aura, and then so we have like attacks, right? It has a frostbite ability. The sorcerer has a frostbite ability as a range of 60 feet. And then this has, other than its breath weapon, this is all melee range. So yeah, if they get up into melee range, this thing is going to be pushing it back. And the moment they get out of melee range, the sorcerer is basically just going to be throwing stuff. Because it also has ice shards, which is a 20-foot radius on a point within 60 feet. So again, everything within 60 feet, but then if you get too close, this guy's basically pushing you out. You also have, the 20, it has a 20-foot radius of difficult terrain. So again, you're being pushed away from it, but still within the sorcerer's range.
Sure.
This one also has legendary actions, so it can do the frostbite, and it can do icy teleport. As legendary actions at the end of someone else's turn, and then it has layer actions. So it can do the Howling Winds, it does the Freezing Ground, which is also very similar to this, but it's bigger, and it also has Hailstorm. So it's like, yes, these two go together, but I'm also not seeing the exact synergy. Other than the fact that they're two ice creatures.
I'll say the best synergy that I've noticed is what we just said, is that one is ranged and one is way more close in melee. And like, you definitely don't want to be able to get up on the sorcerer.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, yes, that is some synergy between the two, but I'm also
it's got a low armor class.
I'm also just really wondering, like, who is this fight made for? Because now really looking at these two together and what they can do, who's this fight made for? What level was intended? Because these are always going to be together. This is a hell of a fight.
Yeah, very much so.
Very much so. Like, and I don't want to mean like this fight sucks as in like it's impossible. Like, I don't know
it's
how
gonna be dangerous. It's gonna be a what is the terminology? A deadly fight. Very much.
I feel like these are the ones where it's not like this is unbalanced. I just feel like this is where DMs have to tiptoe. This is that area where people will have to tiptoe, because this could either be the fight of all fights and could be like, like the one that everyone remembers, or it's going to be one of those ones that win or lose at the end of it, the players are going to feel like it was just it was so you know what I mean? Like,
I'll say
it
this.
could be an uphill battle to the point to win or lose. It may not be fun.
I'll say this. The way I look at it is, if this is a random encounter, this is going to be scary AF.
Yeah.
But if this is something where this guy's guarding a tomb or a lair or something, and you know about it, and you have time to prepare, and you have time to create a strategy to fight this thing, I feel like it could be a much different story than if you just went in blind and didn't know what the fuck was up. Especially if you have a decent party and you guys are like accurately leveled and all that other stuff. So I really feel like there's a way to go about this. There's a way to put this in your world where it feels better, because as you know, you can have a group of level 5 creatures or level 5 player characters wandering around somewhere that maybe they shouldn't be, and run into something that they should not be fighting right now. And it'll be one of those situations where you're like, hey guys, do you really want to try and fight this thing?
Yeah.
Do you really want to come up against, do you really want to engage right now?
And that's where it just comes down to like, is this a combo anybody could pick up? Or is this one of those like combos where it's kind of like Scene Vecna in the monster manual? You're like, this is cool. I have to decide that this is my BBEG, or I have to decide that this is a milestone. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this doesn't feel like, again, like you said, it's not a random encounter. I'm not going to be thumbing through and being like,
Very much
"Ooh,
so.
These two, like this combo, hell yeah." You're going to read these two and go, I need to make.
There needs to be a place for them.
Yeah.
There needs to be a place for them for sure. So it's like, for me, in my world, I would love to steal a combo like this if I have like perhaps like a fetch quest for some guys in a very tundra area, and it's like they're pretty decently leveled.
This is almost like what you were saying. I would almost, as a DM, I would intro this as like an optional battle. Like, you might hear rumors about this guy, or you might go to a place, you might interact with them, and you might know that, you know, he and his like dragon are up there, but it's not vital that you beat him, but maybe he has an item that could help the part. Like,
Sure.
That's what I think, like you said,
I'm down with that too.
I would look at these two and go, I can't just throw this in there because I want a big ass battle. I would have to build something around it, whether it's part of the campaign or a side quest. This combo needs to have a reason and a purpose and a preparation.
And this is what I feel like would be the most fun about doing something like this is I probably have like the party roll like an insight check or something as they're going over what this thing can do. Like, I imagine maybe one person ever escaped and like came back and told the guild, and so like that's why this quest has gone like what do you call it? Uncompleted up until this point. And so I think that one of the things that I could do is be like, hey guys, seriously, depending on like, I feel like somebody's got to roll a decent insight check. But basically reading all of this, you truly believe that it's very possible that one of you guys could die going on this mission. And front loading that with the party ahead of time and being like, do you want to do this? And if you do, like, all right, bet, like, let's go. You know, but it's very possible that one of you could die. I'm like, oh, it's fine. We got Revivify. Oh, it's fine. We got this. And I'm like, okay.
So yes, looking at the Icebound Sorcerer again, I mean, we have 15 and 161 armor class to HP versus a 19 and 189. Resistances to non-magical attacks and cold. Can't be frightened. Yeah, it has the Cone of Cold, Ice Storm, Sleet Storm, Wall of Ice, Freezing Sphere, Control Weather. Yeah, and what did we give this one? 6 or a 7, I think.
Take a look.
Yeah, I definitely think that I would want some more language that ties them together a little bit more.
6.
It was a 6, yeah. I would definitely want some language that really lets me know that these two belong together. Because if I came across these two, because they're not written together, right? So if I was like thumbing through like a monster manual,
Sure.
even if these were, you know, side by side, like on 2 different pages, I need something to know that like this is his mount.
Yeah.
And
even in the description, like just putting in there something like normally found as the mount of an Icebound Sorcerer,
yeah,
you know, and vice
perfect.
versa, you know.
And
like,
we can even do that when we like do our book and everything. But
sure.
So yeah, so I'm not upset about it. It's a unique idea. I'm just trying to think like, again, I don't get the feeling like this like solves a problem or is really like coming up with something like groundbreakingly new, but it's definitely a different approach. And I feel like this is definitely more in tandem with the Icebound Sorcerer. It doesn't feel like this is, I don't read this and get an idea that this was designed to fill a hole or to be a creature that needed to exist. I feel like this is a good example of making a combination encounter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this doesn't feel like I wanted to create a brand new creature that exists throughout my world. It's more like it's kind of like the difference between making a BBEG versus making a whole new race in your world. Or, making an NPC.
Yeah.
You can make an NPC that is of a race that you don't use anywhere else. Think about like the D&D movie, right? The Aarakocra that everyone liked. I forget what his name was, but like the NPC that kept falling out the window. Remember, like the whole narrative of the movie was him trying to like
Which movie?
like the D&D movie. The most recent D&D movie. Like the whole movie was him telling his story and waiting for the Jeff or George or whatever, the Aarakocra to show up. Like kind of like that, where it's like if you're only gonna have that one character, it's fine. But that's what this kind of feels like. It feels like you built this to be not necessarily like the one and only like a Tarask, but it's not like I intend to see more than one of these.
Sure.
That's what this build feels like. I don't see myself coming up against like you see a red dragon and you're like, I might come across another red dragon someday. I wouldn't expect to see this more than once. Like in a campaign, you know what I mean? This just feels like maybe it's a mutation or an offshoot. Maybe like this is the last of its kind, or maybe they're just so rare that the Icebound Sorcerer was able to like befriend it.
Sure.
And that's what I want to like just kind of look at is I just don't feel like this is a truly out there, like there's just tons of these flying around and you can just go hunt them. You know what I mean? I feel like this would be too much for that. So with that being said, I don't dislike it. I'm trying to think of, do I want more or is it kind of nice in its package, right? Like, we have 2 heads. We could do more with that, but it doesn't need it. It does enough. It does by itself, I think it does enough. I'm just trying to feel like, how good does this feel? Like I said, as that boss fight, like.
I like what it is. I feel like it doesn't have too many crazy options that of what it can do. I feel like everything that it can do is themed well with what it's for, where it's at, what it would be. I do agree that there's a little bit, again, this is only going back to if we're associating them. I do feel like there's a little bit too much overlap with both of them having an aura, with both of them having like a ground area that they can create, and so maybe
A little bit too much repetition or just
like maybe give it to one and not the other. Maybe make sure they have a reason to be team up with each other. Like again, I love the ranged for one and like the melee for the other one. Like that.
Here you go. Let the sorcerer control, because it already has like control weather and has the spells to control the ground. Let the sorcerer make the difficult terrain and the ground stuff, right?
Sure.
Then have it to where like the Drake, and this is how, again, the synergy, have the Drake perform better. So like have the Drake have a walk speed, because it's big and lumbering, have a walk speed of like 20, or just big, lumbering, and slow, unless it's in like the difficult terrain of the sorcerer. Then it goes up to 40. Maybe flight is hella slow. Maybe it only has a flight of 40. Unless the Icebound Sorcerer is controlling weather using its control weather spell and making it a blizzard, then it has 80. Like you could do it like that, right? To
I like that.
Separate, they're weaker, but together, like you said, like take away the frigid aura from the Icebound Sorcerer and keep it with the dragon. So the Icebound Sorcerer needs that aura of protection. So without the dragon, it's way weaker. So you know what I mean? Like really lean into, one's trying to keep them at bay and the other is trying to be the, if you push too close, I'm going to defend, right?
Right.
Lean into that more than like what you said, being doing the same things.
Yeah, no, so I super agree with that.
I would do that. I would go one step further and really leverage, when one does something, the other should see the benefit of it.
Agreed.
Because that would help tie in, because you can make each ability beneficial to the individual, but I love the idea of the other one benefits from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could even do so like the Icebound Sorcerer has like Ice Storm or Sleet Storm, or again, even like Freezing Sphere. What was Freezing Sphere?
Also, there was a couple of cantrips that I didn't actually link to.
explodes. So yeah, so I'm gonna say, because I'm thinking like, how cool would it be? Like, I don't know if this would be too broken, but like, what if freezing sphere could heal the dragon? So because you only get it once per day, so what if freezing sphere could also damage? But if your dragon's caught in the explosion, what if it also heals it? Again, that idea of when one of the two does something, the other one
I
could
like the
benefit.
idea that like when the sphere explodes, it like any shards that are like near enough to the dragon like attract to it, maybe gets like temporary hit points or something like that.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Would be sick.
That's what I'm thinking, right? And again, so with the dragon, it should be like going the other direction, right? Even have something to where like when the frost dragon, because like the frost dragon has this like reaction. What about something like that, where when the frost dragon does something, the sorcerer can use like a reaction to do something, or vice versa, right? Like, I think there could be more play with the two being a pair. Because while they're written separately, because you might want to use them separately, I feel like by doing that, by making them two separate things that can stand on their own, they're less obvious that they need to go together, and they're less likely to be paired together. I think that if you make the two different sheets, not one sheet, because you could just make one sheet where it's just both. But I like the idea of doing two different sheets. But what I would do is have each of those sheets represent why they're weaker without their partner. So the Ice Sorcerer could be a decent challenge on its own.
Sure.
But show off weaknesses, because right now, if you read it, it doesn't show any weaknesses. It doesn't show that this thing needs its dragon. It can hold its own in every way the dragon can, and vice versa. The dragon doesn't show any reason it needs a rider.
I mean, I will say the dragon does not have a lot of defenses for ranged attacks.
True.
Like if you are more than 20 feet away from this thing, it pretty much can't do anything to you.
And there's no defense that the sorcerer has against ranged attacks. It can only just attack back, like at range. But
sure.
So that's what I'm saying is like I would just like to see like. I would really like to see just some sort of synergistic couplings, when it, like don't say it can't do this without the other person. Just show off that when it does this, the other person gets the benefit. Or this thing can happen, but it's better if it's happening when this other, like again, it can fly, but it's better if it's flying when the sorcerer is using control weather.
Sure.
This breath weapon is good, but it's better after, the sorcerer does something like this. Or I mean, even something like oh man. So imagine this, ice shards, right? You can do a 20-foot radius of ice shards within like 60 feet. And it charges on a 5 or a 6. Like imagine, or like your frostbite attack. Imagine that when the frost twin-headed drake retaliates with their cold retaliation, or when they fire their frost breath.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, whenever they fire their frost breath, any person that's hit, when a target is hit, the ice-bound sorcerer can take a reaction to cast frostbite. Kind of like, oh, you hit them, I'm gonna double on that guy. Things like that. So it's not like you're taking away because they're not together, but you are showing off that when they are together, they're just
better.
that much more formidable.
Yeah,
that's I think what I would like to see with this. And like you said, the dragon itself, by itself, it doesn't seem to have any lack without the sorcerer. Like there's nothing obvious. Yes, I see it. I see that it has a disadvantage at ranged attacks, so I know that I should attack it at range. But outside of that, that's like a normal, that's just what the creature is weak to, ranged attacks. I just don't feel like this creature needs the Icebound Sorcerer and vice versa. And that's why I'm wondering, why are they a pair? Like you said, what drew them to work together?
Yeah.
Outside of, you don't get damaged by me and I don't get damaged by you. Like I'd like one extra bit of why these two are
actually
a pair
together. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not mad at that.
So otherwise, I'm okay with that. I do think that, so what if the reaction could kick up and blow away the shards created by the sorcerer, make the shards do like 1d6 piercing and 1d6 cold from it essentially being shot.
Is it talking about the freezing sphere you were talking about when it explodes? Kind of like how I said it could be armor, like temporary hit points. Maybe they're saying you could like blow it away and do like even more damage to like a wider area or something like that.
And I'm just trying to think of like just anything that we could do to like really spice up their combinations, right? Like, or even just even tie their legendary actions together.
Interesting.
Just say like, like add, like this one can do the bite and the swipe, but just say like it can't do like the frozen ground without the source. You know what I mean? Like tie like when they're together, they have like an extra legendary action. Oh, have just that. Have one legendary action that they both have. That, it reads the same on both, but it says can only be activated when
with the other one.
And basically it's the same legendary action, right? Like it's one legendary action, but on both character sheets it says it, so you know that they goes together. But something like that would be kind of cool, right? Like, I just I kind of like imagine the legendary reaction is that when being ridden, the twin-headed drake can use frost breath while in a dive, and then can get 90 feet because it does the whole like coming down and then like blasts. So it's doing its normal blast, but it's moving while it's doing it, so it's covering more distance.
Oh, interesting.
So like a fly. So imagine that instead of it just sitting there and just doing one breath weapon that totally can only go 60 feet.
What's the game? You start off in the town and there's a dragon attack.
Like Skyrim?
Skyrim, yes. It, like when you see those dragons come down and just lay waste, like,
and then it's not like a line of fire.
Yeah,
the fire's only 20 feet long, but when they fly by, that 20 feet can make a line 100 feet long. So like, what if that was a legendary action? As when being ridden and while in flight, you can dive bomb, or you can do a dive breath weapon attack that instead of a cone does just a line of like 60 feet.
Honestly,
or
I think that should create the difficult terrain.
Oh yeah, do that. Like when they're together, the legendary action is you can swipe through and create a maybe a 15 by 100 foot line of difficult terrain.
That would be crazy.
Or like an ice wall. Or again, you can even have options like you could do the breath weapon in this way, and you could do one of two things: make difficult terrain along a line, or even make like an ice wall along the same just. Basically, I love because we don't have that, right? We don't have these drive-by attacks.
That would be crazy.
They're all static. They're all assuming that you are in one spot. So that would be an amazing way to bring these two together, is have a legendary action that they can only do together. That would be so fucking cool.
Okay.
Because I think we need that. I think we need more dive attacks, like swooping attacks or whatever they call that, like strafing attacks. That's what we need a strafe attack.
Yeah, I definitely like the closest thing that you have to that is like charge attacks from like land creatures, where if you move a certain distance in a singular direction, you can make like an extra attack, or you can do extra damage or something like that.
Glacial strafe or something like that.
That would be so wild.
I think that's what it should be. I think that they should have a combined option, because again, the dragon's not smart enough, so it knows how to use its breath weapon statically.
Sure.
Imagine it takes the rider to be like, if you're moving, your breath weapon becomes bigger. Because it's not, remember, it's about your breath weapon can only go so far, but it goes off for a certain amount of time. So if you move it along, an area, you're technically get bigger radius. That would take a rider to understand.
Right.
So that's why you can tie it into,
especially with the low intelligence it has.
That's my point. Doing something like that would allow you to also tie the lore in of why it needs a rider to understand. Because again, the rider is basically telling it, don't stop to do your breath weapon, just keep flying. Like the rider is basically telling it, keep riding and do your breath weapon, but it doesn't know to do that thing by itself. It just assumes use breath weapon at something in front of me.
Right.
You're telling it to do it while moving. I think Hog Rider. Yeah. So I think that would be kind of cool. I think we need more options like that. And I think this would be the best place to test something like that out, because then you have two individual creatures that have some cool stuff, but they hint at they should go together.
Yeah.
That would be, and you only need one really good ability to show that off, right? Like, really one solid ability to show that off, because all these other things are fine. But I do say, now that I look at it a little bit more, I would say I would like to change up some of these abilities, like now that we look back at the Icebound Sorcerer. Excuse me. I would like to see, again, them share or not share so many of the same abilities.
Yeah, agreed, for sure.
So with that, let's see. I feel like I know that we wanted to change up a few things here. I think the breath weapon could go in multiple directions. I think that's a good change. I think adding some stuff to make them more connected and adding some things to make them less repetitive, I think is the way to go. I love this combo. I don't want to take that away. I love the
Sure.
combo. I really would just like there to be more verbiage that shows that they go together. I'd like some more synergy that overlaps their abilities.
Yeah,
So
I feel that.
just one example, even just one example of when one does something, the other gets a benefit, and one legendary action that they can only do together. I think those would be just all we need. You know, one overlap or one overlap each. When the dragon does something, the Icebound Sorcerer gets something, and then when the Icebound Sorcerer does something, the dragon. I
Sure.
wouldn't mind a small overlap on each, and then one shared legendary action. If you
I think that is
added
cool.
that, we would be. I think it would be perfect.
Especially the shared legendary action taking a piece from either of them. You know, so
exactly. It's the breath. It's the sorcerers making the breath weapon better. You know what I mean? Like I like the idea of you're just enhancing because you're together.
Yes, but it's like, you know how that one of the legendary actions says you need to spend 2 points? Well, imagine the shared legendary action takes a point from either of them.
I like that too. Yeah.
Right. So like you spend a point, and
Hell,
then you can do this combined.
What if you even put in the terminology when being ridden by the Icebound Sorcerer, they share legendary actions. So they have a pool. They share the pool. So if they both have 2, the dragon now has 4. If the dragon is the only one using them. So when they're being ridden, only when they're physically in contact do they share legendary reactions.
That would be very interesting.
Or legendary tokens, whatever you call it.
I had that idea too. I think that would be cool.
Because again, at that point, yes, that could feel bad, but again, you're taking away what the other one can do. You're really just doubling how many times they can do it, but not really doubling it what they can do.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with some overlaps, and I'm okay with a shared legendary action. All of these things would make me feel like they go together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, hell, again, another option. If they're gonna have, if they're both gonna have the frost aura, right? So the twin-headed frost drake gets 15 feet or 10 feet, and the Icebound Sorcerer has 15 feet. What if the Icebound Sorcerer had 5, the dragon had 10, when being ridden, the dragon had 15? So when together, the dragon's Icebound aura is increased by 5. Because I don't know if I agree that the sorcerer should have a bigger radius than the dragon. That doesn't sound right. The sorcerer has
Very
15
much so.
feet, the dragon has 10
Wait, the
feet.
sorcerer's 15?
Yes. So I'm thinking if the dragon has 10 and the sorcerer should only have 5, but when together, it's like...
I still feel like the way we said earlier, I think the sorcerer shouldn't have one, and it should be just the dragon.
I agree.
But I do like the idea that when being ridden, like just the sorcerer's natural affinity for
Just
cold
boost it.
should increase. I think that would be super
I'm
cool.
okay with that too. Yeah. I know. I'm totally fine with that as well. Yeah, I think those are the kind of things that we could see that would really show off why these two belong together. And again, it would be very unique because a lot of the times you'll just see these things written together. You know, you'll just it's one character, you know, one sheet.
Sure.
But I like the idea that I could separate these two. Or it's even more of a more interesting dynamic is I start with both of these sheets as a DM. I'm starting with both of these as the battle goes on, and then you kill the Drake. So now now I have to alter what I'm doing because I actually lost some shit.
And what you can do, yeah.
That's so much better because the fight feels different. If I'm just fighting these two creatures and one goes down, I'm still fighting the same creature.
So
I want to feel like that because again, right now, as it's written, if I kill one of them, the other one is still just as powerful by itself. It did not get weaker.
yeah.
They should, in some, even insignificant, but some noticeable way, they should get weaker without the other one.
So I've been really into the anime Solo Leveling recently, and there was just an episode where there was this like tower he was climbing, and he finally got to like the top of the tower, and there was this like demon monarch or whatever, and it had a dragon mount that it would ride around, like used to call down lightning. And one of the first things that he does when he's fighting it is he freaking lops off the dragon's head and just like kills the dragon. So now this thing is grounded, and literally the title of the episode is "I got tired of looking up," and he like quotes that line like in the movie while he's. But like I love that idea that it's like you have this like huge advantage. You get to do all these things. This dragon's able to like call down lightning and like spew all this stuff, and like I take away a big piece of what you can do with your mobility, like all of the stuff you're able to do, and now I just have to deal with you grounded here.
Exactly.
And so like I very much like that vibe. I think that's very much appropriate for what we're dealing with. So
yep. I'm okay with all that.
Okay.
All right. So in that particular case, I don't think there's as many things to change and to make the drag better. I think it's the combo that we want to make better. But as for the Drake, I think there could be a few things that are improved. It's not, again, it's not super exciting in terms of like, I need this in high point. I do think it has a lot of great value, but I really feel like as written, it's not as exciting without the Icebound Sorcerer and without the ideas that we've had.
Sure.
I think just as straight, it is a pretty solid dragon fight, but I would like to see more of that relationship be built on.
Sure.
So, I don't want to give it less because I don't feel like it's any worse of a build. It's just, it's kind of down the middle. So I'll probably also give this one a 6. I think that they could both individually maybe reach a 7, just because they are unique and really good. I just don't know I don't know what changes could be made for me to be like,
sure,
I'm going to take that because I have something that's, I have things that are similar. But individually, they could easily both be a 7. I think as a combo, they easily could be an 8 or a 9. If all of these things were done and all of like the overlaps and these really felt like a combo, again, in the terms of they feel synergistic, they work together, they overlap, and you can tell when one of them goes down, the other one's at a hindrance. If I found all of that, I'd be much more likely to want to use this particular pair.
So like if it was submitted like as a pair and they were reviewed as one, like type deal?
Or just individually, I might not. I think individually they might be 7s, but together they would be a 9. Like as in, I wouldn't use that sorcerer or that dragon by itself, but as a combo. So it doesn't need to be written together, but I would say as a combo, I will use them as I will like more the best case scenario is I'd be like, I love this combo. That's now an NPC with a dragon.
Sure.
That would be the best case scenario, but I don't see either of these becoming an individual 10 out of 10.
Sure.
Because I have stuff that covers both of what they need to do. But when they are used together, I could easily see that being an NPC with a very unique one-off kind of dragon that's like really important, right? Like
sure.
This could be one of those things that stands out in high point, but it's just not so much there that, again, I'd have to do all of that work on my own to make it make sense that, I feel like it could just be more accessible and more synergistic to everybody else as well. So separate is a 7, together is an 8.5. Yeah. At right now, it's probably more like they're both 6s and together they're a 7, barely. But again, more synergy would be needed to get it closer to that like 9 or 10 as a together. This or that. Hear me out. Hive mind of 132 regular goblins. Wait.
That's this
hive mind chief goblin. Okay, so wait. So a hive mind consisting of 132 regular goblins and 1 chieftain goblin versus this creature and rider. Who would win? Okay, so who would win in a fight? The Icebound Sorcerer and their Drake, or 132 goblins and 1 chieftain with a hive mind? Honestly, probably this thing. Due to both of them have, especially as written, the control of the battlefield, the height advantage. Goblins aren't really that great known for their range. Like, I mean, they have like regular ranges, but with as fast as this thing is, the fact that the Icebound Sorcerer can stay above their heads, and he has 60 feet of casting ability, right? So imagine this. He's on like the reason why this thing is so devastating. If the Icebound Sorcerer has 60 feet of casting distance on all of his spells, he can just stay 65 feet above everyone. Because think about what's the average distance of a ranged attack? Like even at 120 feet, like as a bow.
Yeah, something like that.
And we know that the dragon can go 80 feet in a turn. So if it's at like 125 feet, right?
Here's the deal.
And then it drops 80 feet, it's basically just in range. So it could hover just out of range of most attacks, dive bomb, let the sorcerer shoot some shit out, and then go back up.
Depending upon how good goblins are at stealth, And even if they are, the second they break their stealth, they're pretty much screwed. The only exception is going to be terrain. If they have to like go into like a goblin cave or something, like where their flight is very much limited or something like that.
I guess it also depends on like the health too, because
goblins got 7 hit points.
So here's my thing, right? So Wildcard has a good idea. Like, yes, with the hive mind, they could be more intelligent. You could say they're more intelligent, but they could
be more strategic.
And yeah, you could do things like they could set up a trap, sure. But if they, again, the downside with some of these conversations is like, yes, you could make the argument they could set up a trap. But if that trap doesn't work, one breath weapon takes out like half of that. I'm just saying, like, how many of those can be taken out by one of these attacks? And once they attack it, it does its cold retaliation. How much hit points do they have?
7.
It on a reaction can do 4d6. So it's like, I mean, granted, that's only on a single creature, but between the frost weapon, the cold retaliation, the frozen ground, and the icebound sorcerer, I think that while the goblins have a high chance of success if they have everything perfectly planned out, any failure on their part would probably result in a snowball effect. And I don't mean that as a pun. Like, I think that right out the gate, the goblins probably have the advantage, but if they don't capitalize immediately, I'm pretty sure, again, with 7 hit points, they're going to go slaughter. And again, if you think of, and again, using Cart's mentality, right? As a hive mind, they're intelligent. Every death makes it stupider. So if you think about it, it also will be a snowball effect, because the more deaths, the less the hive mind. It will literally be a snowball effect. The goblins would probably have the benefit early on, but if they don't capitalize within 2 or 3 rounds, if they don't really get a lean in, I'm pretty sure the icebound sorcerer would have the advantage.
So really, the only way I can see these goblins winning, like, period, is if they find a way to ground this thing right away.
But again, you also have to understand 132 goblins. Depending on how initiative goes, how many of them are archers? How many of them are mages? They might only have 7 hit points, but how many of them can cast fireball and shoot an arrow? Like, if they're all going at one time, depending on how you do initiative, that's 132 attacks against this thing before and it only has 1 reaction. So you could...
It does only have 1 reaction, but it has 3 legendary actions, which you can do after each one of those things turns.
And they only really have so much damage it can do. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, 132
But I will
attacks.
say you can't do a bite attack or a tail attack or the frozen ground unless it's within range.
And so 132 attacks, like I said, in the beginning, I think that there's a advantage to the numbers and the strategic planning of 132 versus 2. But if you don't capitalize, I really feel like the Icebound Sorcerer in this thing could do massive amounts of damage. And that would quickly take down the numbers.
132 times 5 is definitely enough to kill this. Kill the dragon.
Yes.
The dragon's AC is what again?
19 with 189 hit points.
These things have a +4 to hit. I feel like...
So you're rolling 16s. You have to be rolling 15s. You have to be rolling 15s to hit this dragon.
I feel like at the very least a third of those shots are missing.
Oh, easy, a third. That's what I'm saying. So
a third of those shots are missing.
So again, in sheer numbers, I could easily see the goblins having the benefit. But again, it's one of those things. If you go 3 rounds in this combat, 3 to 5 rounds, and they have not done something significant, I'm gonna immediately switch and say that the dragon's probably gonna win, because I don't think the goblins do not have the end game benefits. The goblins have all of the benefit in the first quarter of the game. Like, think about football. In the first quarter, the goblins have all of the advantage. By halftime, if the goblins aren't already either halfway taking that dragon down or one of the 2 is down, I'm pretty sure they've already lost too many. It's that snowball effect. I really feel like if the Frost Twin-Headed Dragon and the Sorcerer can get enough, at least a third of the army down, I think that's going to be the turn point. I really think it's a number, war of attrition.
Okay, and so with the hive mind, I feel like that helps just a little bit, because if they are smart enough to spread themselves out enough so that it takes them so long to dwindle their numbers.
Yes.
Like,
a war of attrition is the way that they have the benefit, but they don't have.
But again, is this a random encounter, or do both of them know about each other?
Exactly, and so that's what I'm saying. You can't. That's why I say that arguments like this can't really be won by a pure logical.
Sure.
Like again, with like what Cart said is great. With that hive mind, they could fire a bunch of ropes and tie it down. Like there's things that they could have done, but again, depending upon both sides, you can make the same argument for I could just stay above them and I could just swoop into their range, let them just run out of arrows. And then once they're all not able to fire at me, do one dive attack and take out half the army with my breath weapon, right? If they're all bunched up. And if they're not all bunched up, think about that. 132. How much do they have to spread out to not lose a lot of numbers? And if they're that spread out, how many of them are now effective? Like they're so spread out, even a foot apart, the furthest one is outside of ranged attacks, right? If there's 132 and they're all 1 foot apart, that's beyond the 120 range of an archer.
What's their range? Short bow. Well, so they have 80 feet to not have disadvantage, but 320 feet to have disadvantage.
So yeah,
for the short bow.
So, but when you spread them out over five feet,
is going to be a lot, especially when they only got a +4 and they need to hit at least a 16.
Well, and if they're all taking up 5 feet of a square, right? So if they're all in a perfect square and they're all at 5 feet distance from each other, what is that? Like a 30 by 30 or a 40?
They got to be more than 5 feet apart.
Well, I'm just saying, but if you are, just imagine how much space that takes up. So if they all equally distance just by 5 feet, you could, lower the numbers, but how much further are the ones on the outside? How effective are they? And if you go any further out, if they're all 10 feet apart, they're even less effective. So the more you make tactics, like if they're all gonna, like again with Cart's idea, if they're all gonna like shoot a bunch of arrows with ropes and try to ground it, cool. But they're gonna have to be close together for that, making them vulnerable. They all spread out, some of them aren't gonna be as effective. So there is a balance on both sides where
I genuinely think stuff like this would be fun to play out.
Yeah.
I genuinely think stuff like this would be fun to play.
I wish we had like a program that we could just type that in and just have it like run through a couple scenarios. Like that'd be cool. Oh, we have another this or that. All right. So a hunting party, preferably of the type of a guild consisting of 2 pepperbox dwarves, 1 barbarian Goliath, 1 elf monk, and a companion armored elk meeting in on its own playing field hunting ground. I really don't know what you're asking, Cart. If you're trying to say this very super specific party, I have no idea. There's no way that you could justifiably make that argument, because I'd have to know about each and every one of those subclasses, all of the abilities they've chose. Like that's too complicated. There's no way that you could do a who would win. You know what I mean? That's too complex of a who would win. You know what I mean? Like, even just saying, would a standard adventuring party win against this thing? Like, probably. Like, it's designed to be won. But I feel like I don't understand this question enough. Like, I don't know what a pepperbox dwarf is. I don't really understand what a barbarian Goliath, why that matters. Like, what specific are you thinking?
I mean, Goliath is just the race.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to be honest, if you have a party of 6 or more, like, regular playing characters, I'm just gonna go with them. Like, this thing is designed to be beaten. You know what I mean? Like things like this are designed. So if you're gonna say,
but I'll say
an adventuring party,
it very much depends on the level of the adventuring party, which is again not articulated here.
So if I have a this or that, like if it's an adventuring party, I'm gonna say the adventure party is gonna win. Like
appropriately leveled adventuring party will win.
Yeah, but with all the, I don't know enough. I mean, I don't even know like what is a companion armored elk? Like I don't understand what that is. Is that like a mount? And then again, meeting on its own playing field. So
pepperbox for blunderbuss.
You guys don't.
And other such types style weapons.
For
no, I've never.
A blunderbuss is a gun. I don't use guns.
Yeah, I've never used that terminology for something like that before. I feel like I've heard the term pepperbox before.
Not in D.
Like,
I've never heard it.
Not in D&D, but like just heard the term in general before. Like kind of like shotgun type deal.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I've never heard that, especially with like dwarves. I didn't know dwarves had a subclass for that. Or I guess it's not even a dwarf subclass. I guess that's like is that a race?
That's none of the above. That's just dwarves using that type of weaponry.
So, and I'm even more confused. What does the dwarf part matter? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're just gonna say creatures that have guns, like that's kind of different. You know? Yeah, kind of different. But I would say, yeah, again, if it's an adventuring party, then it's probably gonna win because they're, you know, again, when you're dealing with players, they're more likely to overcome the challenge. Like,
sure.
You know, the goblins are easier to discuss because we're talking about more of like tactics and just like, you know, how much damage can they output. But when it comes to a party, I think there's too much complexity to know what a party could do. So I'm going to assume the party's smart enough to come over or to overcome a dragon, I would say. It's a ranger subclass. Okay.
You said you would assume it's a ranger subclass. Yeah, I mean, if you're using ranged weapons like that, it's probably going to be ranger-ish something. Unless it's just a straight up fighter subclass. But again, if you're a fighter with like that kind of weapon, I feel like that's a little bit.
I was gonna say I didn't understand what you meant by invasive. I'm glad you corrected that. Like, dwarves are the more invasive type. I'm like, I mean, I guess they're pretty like blunt about their actually. I was really confused when I read that. Interesting. Yeah. So I don't mind this combo. Like I said, I really feel like the combo just needs to be more developed as a combo and not just as two different things that we're saying should go together. I'd really like to see those two play off of each other a whole lot more.
Fair enough.
But I love the idea that we're getting into this pairing because a lot of the times, like flipping through the monster manuals over the years, there's very rarely a time where even like there are a few creatures who have things like pack tactics, but even then, creatures that are designed either written as a pack, like the actual creature in the booklet is a pack, or it says it can, you know, like be seen with multiples. Very rarely do even the abilities of those creatures who have pack tactics and who are designed to attack with multiples, very rarely did they have abilities that synergize with each other. You know what I mean? There's so many creatures that you intend to say there's 6 to 12 of them, but nothing they do, again, unless they have pack tactics, nothing they do really shows off that they've trained as a group. More often than not, it's just like you got some ranged fighters, you got some melee fighters, you may have a wizard, but they don't do things where it's like, if this one does this, the others get a benefit or a boost, or they're waiting for that to happen so they can do something, right?
Right.
You may have synergistic things like you put a wizard on their team that has darkness, and maybe they have, you know, they can see through magical darkness. That's kind of what we're talking about, right?
Sure.
But very rarely do you see like, oh, this creature like owl bears often is seen in packs of 2 to 6. But when you read all of its abilities, none of its abilities fucking matter that there's another one next to it.
Yeah.
Unless it has pack tactics. And what does that do? Like, pack tactics means like if one attacks, the other can attack, or
no, pack tactics is, I believe it is, you get advantage just when they are in melee with one of your other allies.
Okay, yeah. So that, and which is funny because it's funny that they call that pack tactics, but in the back in the day, there used to just be a way that you could use that. Anybody could flank and get advantage on attacks.
But that's specifically on opposing sides. It doesn't have to be on opposing sides. So,
but still,
that's literally the only difference.
I do miss flanking. Flanking's such a great.
I mean, they still theoretically have it in 5th edition. The problem is a lot of DMs don't like it, so they will nerf it a little bit. They'll be like, yeah, it's not full advantage. It's just maybe you get a +2 or something like that.
You know what I think it should have been? I think the problem was is they tried to just say that if they're surrounded, everyone gets advantage, which I get the idea of like, you don't know who to pay attention to. I honestly think what DM should do with that, if they don't like it as just everyone gets advantage as long as they're flanked, make it similar to how we have primary and secondary. Make a primary target and secondary target. The secondary target gets advantage. As in, like, if I'm fighting you and your buddy comes up behind me, I'm not going to suddenly turn my back on you. But it's also not really a tactic to put my left side to you and my right side to them. Neither of those things are what people do in battle, really, right? Like, I would not want to have someone behind me, but there's really no way to defend against that. So what it should be is the like main one is going to be the one they're focused on, and the other person is taking advantage of the fact that I'm still in battle with you, right? Because again, battle doesn't stop. It's not like we're taking turns. You and I are still engaged. If you attacked me and I attacked you, even though it's not our initiative, we are still physically engaged in combat. So the person coming behind me is the one that should have advantage because I'm not paying attention to them. But when your turn is to attack, you and I are still fully engaged. So to me, that's something that I think should be the alternative in a book. And this is one of the things I'm thinking about putting in the ADMG, is an alternative to flanking is if you don't like just everyone getting an advantage, assign a primary and secondary combatant. This would be on the DMs. This would be very much on the DMs.
If with that type of mechanic, I would really like an ability. I don't know if this has to be a learned ability or ability that like comes with like certain subclasses or certain classes or something like that, where you can roll some sort of check, almost similar to like a grappling check, where you could switch spots with somebody that's adjacent to you. If they're willing, then they're willing. If they're not, then roll some sort of check without provoking an opportunity attack.
Like the enemy, like you want to switch spots with the enemy.
So like,
I'm totally down with stuff like that. I like that idea.
Like that is the response to something like that. A lot of the times when somebody just comes up behind you and flanks you, you're not going to just sit there and chill and be like, all right,
but
well,
also,
I guess I'm fighting two people like this.
But battles don't always happen in the same spot. You're dancing around each other. So I totally I love the idea that being able to have some sort of feat that allows you to do a check and try to like get yourself out of it, right? Like I totally would be okay with that. Also, imagine if you had a feat or a subclass that when either flanking or engaged in melee combat with another ally, like basically when you're fighting a target that another ally is also within melee combat, or you're flanking, like one of those two things. Imagine if you either had a subclass or a feat where as a reaction, you can give your ally advantage on the next hit. So as in like when it's not your turn, if you still have a reaction, the idea is like, again, we're engaged in combat, but your buddy's behind me. He has an ability to basically like poke me, kick me, or do something when you're about to attack. When you're about to attack me.
So it's like the help action, but specifically for an attack.
Yes.
And you can use it as a reaction instead of a full action.
So the idea is that it's not my turn, but I see you were about to attack the guy and I'm right behind him. Like, I think about like when someone's playing pool and you tap the back of their pool stick. Sure. Yeah, it's like that. All you're doing is just something like maybe I just grab his shirt just enough to where when you're attacking him, he goes to block and he's like, why? And then he gets distracted to give you advantage on that hit. Those would be so much more fun for DMs than I think just giving them the straight everyone gets. Because I get why flanking kind of sucks because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Just that everyone's automatically going to get advantage because the fighter is going to be paying attention to somebody. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
definitely.
Like unless you stun him, he's going to do that. So I think it would be kind of cool to have something that allows a character, or even just like again, imagine a subclass. Man, we haven't really seen a subclass that's all based around reactions. Like imagine a subclass that's everything they do is about reactions. So it's not about them doing stuff. It's about them waiting to do stuff. You remember
the feat that Cosmic came up with? That's basically you can. It was a really cool feat. He put it in home brewing, and everybody really liked it. And they were talking about giving it to me for my samurai class that I'm building.
Oh, well, yeah.
I said that I'm building an entire subclass based off of that, which is a reaction-based subclass. So
nice.
Imagine you have the fighters and how they get all these different additional attacks. Well, this subclass is going to get a bunch of different, all of it basically
has reactions.
It has, the only thing it can do with its action is change its stance. And when it changes its stance, it changes the different types of reactions you can use. But all
the reactions are just...
But you get multiple reactions to be able to do different things and stuff like that.
I like that. I like having more than one reaction than having actions.
Yes.
I like that.
So it just changes like when you can do stuff. But I'm very excited to see how I can put that into practice. But no, I super duper love that idea.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see that. We got a package.
Beautiful.
Okay. Got something in Discord? What's going on? Yes. Oh, okay. That was your update.
Yeah. Letting Hecate know.
Oh, okay. Looks like they got caught up with some family stuff. Unfortunate. But we always have the VOD, and maybe we'll get this one edited. It's actually kind of a shorter episode today. All right, cool. Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. I think that this is giving me good insights on. I love doing stuff where people are trying to create things that I've been working on for years because again, I love soundboarding because I can only come up with so many ideas on my own. I need that outside inspiration. So when I hear people talking about stuff like this and submitting these ideas, it helps me solidify the things I've been working on for so long. You know, this idea of synergistic builds. Again, I've talked about this before, like in the Discord that I ran a while back, where I had certain NPCs who would have specialties that weren't in the book, like they weren't things that D&D said you could do.
Right.
But I balance it by saying they don't get anything else you guys do. They're your level, but while you by this level got 2 ASIs and your subclass got 3 feats, they got this thing. This is what they got.
Sure.
They don't like, because that's what people like, you know, I feel like too many people are worried about breaking the rules, giving an NPC something that, you know, isn't standard. But all you have to do is justify what did they sacrifice. I had a group of 6 assassins and their ability was to mirror image themselves to where 6 suddenly looked like 12. And it was really difficult to hit any of the real ones. And that was the whole point. They could just basically take any of the images places and you wouldn't know who to hit. And they all dressed identical, right? So that was their whole ability, was just super fucking difficult to hit them. Like you basically had to roll, I think, a 5 or a 6 every time you shot at one. You had to roll a d6 and a 5 or a 6 would hit. So you had to roll to hit an image, and then you had to roll to see if you actually hit one of the 6 people.
Got you.
So that was a difficult fight. The whole point was you're essentially fighting. It's a war of attrition. But the difference was the only thing that they were equal to is your AC and your health. They didn't have, like, all of their attack. They all had 1 attack per round, right?
Okay.
They all had basic Thaco. They had no special. They had no magical weapons. They had no magical armor. None of them had any huge bonuses to hit. They all had 1 attack per round. Like everything the party would have had by that point, multiple attacks per round, feats, ASIs, magic weapons. They had none of that. Why? Because in lore, this group said, we want to take this mirror image spell and we want to adopt it into a way that no one else has before. And what they did was they each made a mirrored image of themselves, but they all shared the images. So when you fought this guy, even though my image is right here and you hit me, I could teleport to his image. Like basically it was basically, because in High Point you can actually do like there's a type of thing that you can do to like conjoin magic users to like do the same spell, but then they empower.
Oh, interesting.
There's an empowering type of spell. So that's basically what they did, was without learning like the big ritual, they just learned that if they all cast the spell in a slightly different way, they all merged their magic. So it was a really, like, think about that. A group of fighters would normally want to do that. And what would it sacrifice? Learning anything fucking else. Sure. But, and most people, like, again, players would be like, well, that's dumb. That's hella weak. And I'm like, yes, it is. But guess what? In a world like High Point that is ever expansive, not everyone looks at power the same way.
And it's
to
weak
them,
when you know about it. If you don't, then you sit here all types of fucked up, and they can use your confusion to their advantage. And
well, and again, a lot of people,
craziness.
They're not the level 17 adventurers you are. They are a group of people who specialize in this. And guess what? When they use it, they're successful. But are they taking on dragons? Did they go after the big bad evil lich? Did they free the kingdom from, you know, the evil sorcerer? No, they're here in a battle, in a tournament, in a warriors tournament to earn some money. Sure. So yes, they are also here at the finals because of this ability, but they're not your level. They are not on par with you. You know, it's like a professional football player going to like an independent like rally, you know, or like when they do like the Rose Bowl or something, where you are professionals, but you're also going into a game with other people who, while they're higher than the standard, they're not professional, but they are here. Like, they're not amateur league, but they're also not pro. But you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I look at is, I love this idea of when you do these things and you make these unique combos, don't be afraid. Just realize that if you feel like it's going to be broken, if you feel like it's going to be too powerful because you're adding it on top of everything else, take away something that would be normal. Yeah. And once you do that, you start to show off the scale of sacrifice. If you want a wizard that has a uber powerful, like if you want someone that's uber powerful, like I have an uber powerful spell, right? Let's say you want a wizard that has this amazing weird spell, but it's just too powerful to just justify any wizard having.
Sure.
Say cap their spell. Like what's the level of the spell? Well, I want it to be a 7th level spell. Cap them at 7th level spells, even though they're a full caster. Cap them, like make them level 20, but say they never learned beyond 7th level. There you go. They gave up learning Better's magic for the sake of this spell. So now they're at the peak of their life. They can't learn anything more, but they got their spell on, right? They can't cast Power Word Kill, but they have this spell.
Right.
You know, make them lose. Like that's all I'm saying is like you can do that. You can make them have stuff that feels broken is if you take away the things that that made them work in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think it's pretty cool player creature. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. They're still cool.
I very much agree. Like I think what would happen if somehow they were able to slay the sorcerer and tame the dragon, and then like get this thing as like their, now granted you still have to deal with the ice aura because that thing,
that'd be hilarious. Like everyone's still afraid.
What, imagine you had what's his name, we got the subclass of icebound sorcerer. Like imagine if you had that, and like,
or just a magical item that made you immune to cold.
Yeah. Oh, it'd still be so cool.
All right. Well, you have a question in chat about a lineup for another review, and then I think we'll call it there.
Lineups. This from Cart.
Yeah.
Also, it's been a month. Okay, where is Cart on my list? Let me take a gander. Now, it's possible that it's been a month because a month is only 4 reviews, and there's definitely more than 4 people reviewing. So that is very, very possible. Cart, your last review was the Tarrasque-born. That was right after Pokeniner and right before Marty.
What's going on, Freeman?
So next up we just did Hecate's. After that, we are going to do Soul. And then after Soul, we have another Pokeniner. And then after Pokeniner is going to be another Cart.
God damn, we have so many people. Like, I can't believe it literally takes 2 months to get around to someone now.
It's wild. It's wild. And there's such like a bag. Like, so we have a bunch from Desmar, a bunch from Pokeniner, several from Soul. We've got several from Cosmic. We've got, I think, 2 from Cart that are just waiting in the wings. We've got more from Hecate that are waiting. That's already 6 people.
Jesus. Well, and the thing is, like, yeah, because at first it was like a bunch of people were submitting, but it was only like 2 of them had a bunch of stuff, and then everyone else had onesies. Mm-hmm. Now everyone's sending in their compendium, so it's like, yeah, we got
a lot, man.
Honestly, I will tell you guys, if we're ever able to extend another day or extend one of our streams, it will be homebrew review. It will have to be. Like it is one of our more popular options.
I do feel it, Cart, so I apologize. I know it's been a little bit.
But no, that's one thing that stays on my radar. Is it does seem like this is everybody's, like this is one of the best series that we do. I want to continue with it. I want to get through this stuff. So if we ever get a chance to add a day or even just add time, like again, I don't know if like every other Monday we can start a couple hours early, but then again, maybe people won't be able to show up.
Sure.
But yeah, we need to add in somehow more reviews.
Fair enough. No, I feel it.
Hell, I don't know if this would be worth it, but maybe if I start to really pump out and get like some stuff on the YouTube channel figured out, and I really get like editing down, maybe we even have to like link up offline, the off stream, and just do like a recording or something. Even like you come over a couple hours early on Monday, we do an off stream review, and then we do an on stream review.
Oh,
so I can have like, so we don't get as tangenty and we don't get as distracted, but maybe I can actually put out just like a flat review of something, and then we'll have more of like the live stream review.
Okay.
So something to get through more of this content, because we have absolutely so much, and I did not realize it was like 8 weeks before we're rotating through people. I did not realize it wasn't that way before. I felt like it was like 2 or 3 people in a row, and then we'd get another one, and then it would be like 2 or 3 people in a row, and then we'd get another one. Like, Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Gone are the days when somebody would get a back-to-back review in 1 week.
Yeah, gone are those days. You also have another question from Soul.
What do you got for me, Soul? Change the order of your recent yeah, we talked about that in the homebrew. So you just want the one you submitted most recently to go after your next one. So currently we have, let me take a gander. Where you at? Currently we have Backlash next. That is going to be next week's review. I'm going to update our submissions channel, or our schedule channel here in a little bit. And after that, instead of doing the creature that you had submitted, we are going to do the race that you just most recently submitted, which is totally cool. I don't mind doing that next.
Yeah, he wants the Backlash next.
Yep, that's going to be the race. So yeah, not a problem at all.
All right, sweet. All right, so yeah, so we have some stuff coming up. I know it's gonna be quite a long time for you, Cart, to get yours, another couple weeks, but hopefully you're still excited. Hopefully you'll stick around with us and wait for that. We will ping you once we do that one, but again, if we can get more time, if we can get more days, homebrew review is going to be what we focus on. Because I think Fridays and community stream are still great to test out new series, and I think that we're going to start adding in like the new series to Friday streams next month. But yeah, homebrew review I think needs to take another priority.
Get a little bit more action going. I feel that.
Kadita, what's going on? How you doing?
It's actually Cart.
Oh, that's Cart. Oh, gotcha.
His phone died and he's on his girl's phone.
I saw that. Honestly, I saw the Cart part and I thought they were talking to Cart. Like I thought that was Cart's friend. Like,
so
hey, my phone died.
So did I at first.
No worries, Cart. Okay, so we will we'll see that. So yeah, sorry that you won't be able to see that, but yeah, we're getting through them. We're trying. We will continue to work on ways that we can do more streams and do more reviews. So we're not waiting for something. Or we're not waiting for so long. Put an idea for the community stream due to the tie. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll take a look at, I didn't realize the vote was going to end today. So I can go take a look at that and see what we're going to do. Yeah. All right. Anything else that we're doing? We still have, oh yeah. So, maybe I'll talk to you after we stop streaming today. We need a day for, I'm hoping next weekend will be good. Either day, next weekend. Oh, thank you so much, Cart, for the additional follow. I appreciate you.
Love it.
I'm free next weekend, either day. So we can try to hook up next weekend, or it's either that or we can try to just do it on one of these Fridays. Like, we don't have to do a whole separate stream. We could just do it this Friday or next Friday.
That's true.
So
that is true.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
Let's talk about it right after.
Yeah.
See
I'll try to do it. It will probably end up being that'll probably be the best thing. We'll probably end up doing it this Friday or next Friday. And we'll do the verse coming up. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So either this Friday or next Friday, we will do the subclass showdown.
Okay.
And then not this Saturday, but next Saturday. So a week from this Saturday is the community stream. And that might be it. Maybe we'll do it next Friday just so we'll have the showdown and then we'll have a community stream the next day. So we can kind of have two fun big streams back to back. Okay. So maybe we'll do it that way. We'll do the subclass showdown and then we'll do the community stream next week back to back. That'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll be able to get through all of our backlog. Because I think that's the last thing that we're on a backlog with is the subclass showdown.
Yeah.
So I will be working this week on everything else as well to finalize that so we can get something good. So with that, I think we'll be good. That was probably really loud. All right. Well, anyway, thank you all so much for showing up. We do appreciate you. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I know Hecate wasn't able to stay for the whole thing, but that's all right. I hope you all are looking forward to the coming weeks with the community stream, with the subclass showdown, and with just more stuff coming. This Friday, I'm hoping to finish up my finalization and research on magical identification. And if that doesn't work, I don't know. We'll figure something out. I'll figure it out. I'll do something. You know me. I'll figure it out. Oh, and tomorrow, tomorrow I should have another episode on our main channel. I'm doing
that's right. You were telling me about
I'm
that.
about halfway done with the history of enchanting, editing that episode down. So hopefully tomorrow I should have that done and posted. So if you guys are paying attention to the main channel, yeah, we're starting to get stuff done. Do we have anybody to raid today? I don't think so.
I do not believe so. Last time I was scandering over there, got somebody on here named Gnome Annie and Blackwater, but they both got like
Yeah, Blackwater's
30,
really
40.
popular. So
Yeah.
I mean, we're a little bit too small for them, but that's okay.
Very noof, very noof.
I mean, and honestly, that's another thing I need to be doing during the week is I need to be going out, and as bad as I am with it, like I need to, like with tomorrow's episode, I'm going to be posting more on social media. I need to get you the links or some kind of bot that you can like take like the review submissions and we can post those on social media.
Yeah.
And I also need to just I need to be present more. I need to just like just during the day, I need to just like turn on my phone or turn Twitch on and just go into D&D communities and just chat, get my name out there.
Yeah.
That's really what's going to get us out there. Again, kind of like what happened with Soul. Soul just kind of randomly came across us and then started talking to people about us. So it's like, I really just need to kind of like get us around so people see us. And then if they friend us,
Word of mouth is where it's at, to be honest.
With Twitch, it is. So I need to do more of that. I just need to get off my ass and stop being so lazy during the week. So hopefully we'll be getting more of that too. So look out on YouTube for the new episodes. Our main channel, not the live channel. Live channel is for VODs. Main channel is for edited content. And of course, always join the discount. Yeah.
You mean Discord?
Yeah, Discord. So yeah, so we're trying to, we'll do it. We'll get growing. But yeah, you can take a look and expect more content, hopefully, as we go. We ain't slowing down anytime soon. That's
amen. That's
one
right.
thing I am definitely one message I'm definitely keeping in my mind is that we ain't stopping. Not slowing down. I mean, that's the only thing. I don't want to quit this. It's been almost 2 years, and
it's a good time, man. Like, I love what we do, man. Like,
the fact that more than 50% of streamers don't make it to 2 years is more than enough motivation for me to know that
true.
Yeah, it's like it's like 60%. I mean, you got to think like a lot of those could just be people who make an account, stream once, and that's it. But I think it's like 60% of people who start streaming on Twitch quit before 2 year mark. They don't even make it to their 2 year mark.
Yeah.
And it's only like 10% that make it to the 10 year mark. So you got to look at, once you hit 2 years, between that and 6, like another 4 years, and you're basically
10%.
Yeah. Then went live on TikTok once. Yeah, I haven't gotten all of that. I am in the market for a new computer. Hopefully in the next month or two, I'll get one. And if I do, then we'll be able to do more multi-streaming, more video gaming. I can play games like Ghost of Tsushima on stream without it looking like shit. Fun fact too. We'll end it with this because fun fact though.
Supposed to be coming out with another one.
Because you can name your horse in that game, and they're predefined names. There's only like 3 names you can name your horse.
Probably one from Kage.
It is.
I knew it.
I had to. Once I saw it, it was like I can name it Shadow, and I'm like, well, I have to. So literally every time I'm in the game, if I start to sprint with my horse, the character will just be like, hurry up, Kage! We must go, Kage!
So I just started watching this show called what's it called? Ranking of Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this like one of like the main characters that like runs around with like the main dude all the time. His name is Kage. So like every time I'm in there, this is like a weird amorphous like shadow looking blob. It's hella weird, but it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I had to. I was just like, if I had all the names, I'm like, well, I mean, I gotta roll around with my bro Kage. Yeah, like, come on, I gotta have my sidekick
I got
here.
your back all day.
All right. We're gonna end it on that fun note. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please continue to support us and join us on every Monday and Friday. We do enjoy it. We do appreciate you. If you do see us streaming otherwise, come in, drop a emote, say hi. We do appreciate the support. You can catch Kage on Tuesdays, streaming as well for some background and some coding. So go and show him some love when he's online. And if you see me online playing games, it's pretty much just chill casual. So come in and hang out. Otherwise, I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, and I hope you have a great week ahead of you. because we all know weekends are better than weeks. So
Facts. Big facts.
fantastic weekend, great week ahead of you. We'll see you all on Friday, y'all. Cheers.
Peace.